welcome once again. You've got gas here on Got Gas. That's right, GotGAAS.com. If you're watching us, you can watch us on Facebook. We're trying to get on that, on the GAAS, the Great American Auto Scene page, or GotGAAS.com. And we're going to you live right now. We've got some great in-studio guests, including Anna Octane. Whoa. And we're trying to, there she is. We're trying to, I'm working too quickly for Bruce right now. We've been negligent in getting things set up. We've had so much fun talking about unrelated things that we're actually going to be talking about anyway. But we've been talking kind of practicing the show. We've been talking about a few things with our guest tonight. And as you know, Steve Stanford is here, the great artist.
Famous Steve Stanford.
And there he is.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And along with him is Sean Morris. Now, Morris is going to be talking to us about some great things with old Japanese cars as well as anything that has to do with racing. But we'll be talking to him about that, too. He just came back from a race. We'll be talking to him about that. And, Bruce,
wow,
your latest escapades, whatever they may have been.
Me and Bondo, we're like
Bondo.
this.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me center that camera. Me and Bondo.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a guy named Bondo Bob out there someplace. I think he runs a body shop. Don't go there. Magnets run away from his cars.
Magnets. You know, that company truck outside's got a little bit of a problem with those magnets because, there's a little Bondo here and there. So it's like, place the magnetic sign carefully or it won't stay on.
Glue it on. Super glue.
The art of duct tape.
That's it. Yeah, if it's not supposed to move and it moves, use duct tape.
That's right.
If it's supposed to move and it doesn't, WD-40. That's the way to do it.
Oh,
That's
right. There you go.
We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of things tonight, and we've got some guests calling in as well. There's a special cancer event going to be happening at Irwindale Speedway coming up later on this month. We're also going to be going to, and we'll talk about it at the next show, Cruising for a Cure at the Orange County Fairgrounds. It's the largest one-day car show in the country.
Man, you know what? That is the one we talk about on the show every year. And why haven't I been there yet?
You got to be there.
I know, man.
3,500 cars last year. It's a one-day show. I'll tell you what, they get the cars in, they get them out. And for those of you interested, you get a free prostate exam.
No, you don't.
Yes, you do.
No.
Yeah.
You get a blood test.
No, you can get both. They do the stink finger as well.
Oh, they what? But you know what?
What?
She has saved 800 lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
And it's interesting because you get the results back, so you can check your PSA count. You can do just the blood test if you want. You can do both. They'll work with you on it. But the object is, Penny makes sure that she has the opportunity to save lives because her husband passed away from prostate cancer. So she's working very hard at making sure nobody else does, at least in Southern California, if you come out for the show. And I'll be there. I'll be working with Auto Addicts. We'll be doing a live broadcast from the show, but we'll talk about that more next show in 2 weeks because that's right before the Cruising for a Cure on September 23rd. But we're going to be talking about, well, Anna hasn't got any legal stuff to talk about this time.
I had a head-on collision with a dragonfly.
That sounds like a legal case for the dragonfly.
You weren't insured. He wasn't insured. It's all over the place.
No.
And splat.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll work on that, too. All right, so let's introduce our guest tonight. Over in the corner, and that was his choice. I didn't tell him where to sit, honest, is Steve Stanford.
I'm trying to keep a low profile.
Yeah. In this group, you can't do that. No. And then right alongside him is Sean Morris.
Hi.
Oh, don't be so open. Hold back your enthusiasm, Sean. Come on now.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
It's all about being reserved around here.
Absorbent or observant?
Yeah, that too.
Here we go.
There we go. We're off the chart already.
I'm telling you, it's going to be that kind of an evening.
It is going to be.
Is.
All right, one of the things we're going to bring up, Bruce, you've got a bunch of photos that we can show.
You are correct, sir.
And we're going to talk to Steve about this. Now, one of the things we've talked about in the past, and we talked about a little earlier, is the artwork you do transcends.
Isn't that beautiful?
I mean, your stuff is amazing. It's beautiful. And one of the photos we got up here, like I told you, is one of my favorite because I built a van back in the van days, and you did an excellent E-van that someday I'm going to emulate should I ever get off my tail and get into the van.
Well, that's the trouble. There's not enough tail to get off of because there's not enough time. Where's
I've lost
the
some
time
weight.
Go?
But look at some of these illustrations that Steve has done.
Yeah, now that mid-engine concept is a little more radical than I normally draw because I like to draw stuff that people can relate to and that can actually build. Because I don't want to waste somebody's time by getting them all excited about a concept only to find out that by the time they get through it and try to engineer it, it's different from what the original intent was. So I like to kind of keep it somewhat doable, somewhat reasonable, and keep people's hopes up that they can actually drive something cool.
Yeah. All right, now this is one that I love, and I've seen this car in person as well. Did you do the rendering before or after?
Before. Now get this, that actually started as just a one-page sketchpad thing in the old Custom Rider magazine.
Wow.
And they used to let me submit stuff on a regular basis because they know how heavily I am into custom cars. I mean, it's my kind of like my first love. Well, the guy that built this and shepherded this thing to completion is a really nice guy by the name of Barry Penfound. And he took one look at that concept and gave me a couple of phone calls and this and that, and I gave him my blessing. And so some time went by, and the next time I saw of the car, I'm like, wow, he nailed it exactly, and even improved certain areas like the grille design, because the view that was shown was only just the side profile shot. There was no real indication about a grille or taillight treatment. And so he used his imagination to flesh out the whole idea, and I'm really proud of what he did.
It's beautiful. Now, what was the roof originally from? A Mopar product, but
61 Mopar, yeah, okay. Dodge or Plymouth.
Okay. Oh, so that's it, because it's got that vague sort of Starliner look to it too, that really swoopy thing.
Now, see, I'm glad you brought that up because I also did another version of that got published in the Riders Journal a while back that did use a Starliner roof. There was 4 illustrations total of this concept as I was messing around with trying to get from point A to point B. But yeah, a Starliner roof was attempted. It was a pure custom exercise with wide whites and Cadillac saber spoke wheels and the whole trip. But this Dodge roof example was a little more hot rodding. I think that's why it struck a chord with Penfound.
It's great.
So clean. It's almost. It's retro futuristic.
It drove him nuts at Detroit Autorama when he debuted it there.
Right. It's beautiful.
That is great. All right, now here's another shot. That was
from 1982. That was when Carcraft magazine was doing the Camaro giveaways, and they built a pro street car to show at the Street Machine Nationals back in Illinois. And this is when I was working at Bill Carter's, and so Carter did the paint after I'd done the illustrations, and of course the guys from Carcraft put the rest of it together and that. But it went over really, really well. We had a good time with that project.
Man, all right, now you're talking about Bill Carter. Shout out to him. Bill's a little under the weather. He was going to be. He was hoping to be here tonight.
Yeah.
And we talked about it. He pinstriped a van for me, and it went down. It went into a bunch of different magazines. As a matter of fact, I forget, it was one of the writers for Hot Rod pulled me over on Van Nuys Boulevard because of the striping that Bill had done.
Sure.
So it was great. And now we're going to get to some more photographs of your illustrations just a bit.
Sure.
But Sean, why don't you give some people, because a lot of people may not know a bit about you. Steve's in front of everybody a lot.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because actually... myself and my sister, we kind of help manage some of Steve's stuff, which is
they got me online in the first place.
And so we help Steve with his Facebook page. We help him get some scans, some images, technology.
God, what are we up to? Like 250,000 likes?
Yeah. Wow. So on Facebook we're like 253,902. There we go.
Oh, there you go. The exact count.
So and I mean a lot of that all came just from getting out and because the thing is, like, Steve as an artist, he doesn't always get a chance to get all of his art out to people, and if you haven't seen it in the magazines, it's basically, it goes away. It doesn't exist anymore. Nobody really knows about it, and so we're doing our best to gather, scan, put out a lot of this art that Steve's done over the years that we're huge fans of, and we've built cars. So we were saying earlier, like, I've known Steve since I was probably 10 years old, of going over to Bill Carter's shop, and we've had a chance to actually commission Steve to do renderings for us for vehicles that we did when we were we did a lot of custom Astra vans, and we exported them overseas. So my family business.
Let's get to the good part. Talk about your movie connection.
The movie stuff. Like, what do you want to talk about? Like, so I mean, I've done a lot of things through the years, a lot of car related things. So I had. So first Fast and Furious movie. So we put a car in the first movie. I took it to the audition for that. Second movie, we had cars in. Third movie, I did the Mustang that has the Skyline engine in it, which a lot of people hate. So, but it was fun. I didn't. Hey, I wasn't the one who came up with the concept, but I made it work. So, there you go. And then the fourth movie, I was a technical advisor for the insert unit. So when you see hands and feet, that's actually generally me for doing all the hands and feet. For,
I was joking, he was a hand model.
For Vin Diesel and for Paul Walker. And so when you did all the green screen stuff, I'm actually like when Vin Diesel is driving, I was actually on a steering wheel at the other side moving his hands around and stuff. And so it was kind of cool. I mean, it's fun to do some of the craziness of working on the movies, and so I still have friends that are picture car coordinators, and so when they need some cars, they call us up. So we got a chance to get a lot of cars for the movies over the years. So
we've got a caller, Dean Stark's calling in. Dean, how you doing today?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, just saw you had Steve on the line and wanted to say hi.
Is this the real Dean Stark? I can't believe it.
Yeah, well, they won't make any imitations. I mean, that's already been outlawed.
You're one of a kind. There's no imitations allowed.
I understand they tried to make the mold, but it kept breaking.
Something, lightning from above or some crazy thing like that.
No, I did some really cool striping and lettering jobs for Dean back then. He's always been a really good friend.
Good.
I appreciate that, and so have you. You've always brought my cars to life, and so... You still over at Santini's?
Of course, I'm not leaving.
Good.
They're gonna pull me out by the feet.
No.
I'm actually at my Vegas house right now. Maybe I'll have to pay you a visit.
Hey, yeah, that sounds good. Always.
Yeah, come back down to civilization here. Actually, I don't know. I think I'd almost rather be in Vegas if I could stay in the air conditioning.
Yeah, really, huh?
Everywhere's air conditioning in Vegas.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you die. So.
So any interesting projects going on now, or?
Right now, I'm working on a piece for Hotrod magazine. Remember, when I did the April Fool's stuff, that kind of surprised all the American Motors guys. They thought the company was coming back to life. Well, no, I always tell people, I said, no, the best part of that whole story was when somebody told me that they were watching a NASCAR race on TV, and the announcer was carrying on about, hey, you know, they're bringing back American Motors. So they had to. They had to say, "Oh no, this they brought him up to speed." Right. I'm surprised I'm still living.
That was a great piece though, because I remember looking at it and looking at what could have been.
Yes. And for what a lot of the guys that they thought I was dissing American Motors, but I wasn't. And it was more like a love letter, if anything else. So what I'm working on now is going to be like a follow-up piece that's going to be called "No Fooling."
There you go.
We know some real AMC stuff. I'm having a lot of fun putting it together. Where do you see the 60? Was it the Rammer Classic? You'll love that.
Well, I can't wait. I always check out your website, and as always, the work is stunning.
Oh, thank you, man. Well, with support from guys like you, man, that's what keeps me going.
I appreciate it. Well, you deserve it, man.
Thanks,
congratulations on a wonderful long career, and again, I can't thank you enough for all I mean, I'll never forget that time I brought my Suburban down to letter the windows, and you said, when do you want to pick it up? I said, I'm waiting. You didn't get done till 3 in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. Yeah, I never said it was going to be immediate.
Right.
Oh, you punished it there.
Yeah, exactly.
He's an artist. If you deal with enough artists, they don't really, they move at a certain pace.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you have to understand this pace. And so as long as you understand this pace, we will get along fine. So between my sister and myself, we try to we try to manage some people for Steve a little bit.
I put these guys through hell.
So that way, then we can do some of the things we did. Like we did the show at the Peterson, and we've done some of the other hot rod stuff again, and we're trying to keep up with keeping Steve out there on working on some cool projects.
Gainfully employed.
Right, yeah. So.
All right, yeah, Dean, thank you much for calling in. We're glad you did. Glad you're watching, too.
Absolutely. You guys take care. It was great talking to you.
All righty, anytime.
We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You've alluded to your sister.
Yes.
Assisting.
Catherine.
We did.
Catherine, yeah.
Catherine. I just know her as Cat.
Yeah, everybody, Catherine, Cat, because when
Yeah.
you're a kid, and I'm like 14 months older than Cat, and so then of course when you're a kid, you can only say certain parts. So she became Cat, but we get along. My sister's in the car business too, and we've been in the car business our whole lives. Our dad was a car dealer, and we're from New Zealand originally, as we were born. Came over here when we're kids. I was 5 and she was about 3. So
plus you just married a car enthusiast.
I
herself.
did, yeah. And so but we've been doing this whole car thing forever, and so but yeah, Cat acts and helps Steve out here a bit and kicks some people's ass when they need to be kicked. So
I can see her doing that.
Right? Yeah, because that's how Cat is. So, but it's.
If you're gonna have a dragon in the moat, might as well be an attractive one, right?
Definitely that.
So,
like that.
But yeah.
The first time I've been chatting with her for years. I'd never spoken to her. And then when we were planning this show, I finally got a call, and we're talking, and I go, "You don't have an accent."
Well, yeah, right.
She always jokes about that.
Yeah, you're from New Zealand. You're supposed to have an accent. I don't, it doesn't look right.
Well, yeah, but we've been here since, the problem, when you're a real young kid and you're at school and you have an accent, and everybody asks, say ka, or say Mazda, say things, and after a while, it gets kind of. You don't really.
You lose it.
You have to. And,
you have to.
Right, and I mean, Kat, she was so young that she didn't even.
She was barely speaking when you came over. So yeah,
but my mom and my dad, and if we hang around enough, New Zealanders, it comes back, and you talk a little strange for some people. I still say some things weird. Some people say, "Where are you from?" They occasionally pick up some weird words that I say just because it's part of hearing it. And I said like "ka" and
exactly.
Right.
I just something said I came from New York, and I had an accent when I moved here. I was about 10 years old in California, and everyone told me I talked funny, and I go. What do you mean I talk funny? I don't know what you're talking about.
You would ratchet it up.
What you talking about? So and I went to a special speech training class when I was in elementary school.
Really?
And they kind of laughed at me. They said, "You have an accent." I go, "Oh, what's an accent?"
Right.
I don't know what from an accent. I mean,
I'm heading back to the car. I don't need this.
All my family talks this way. What's the problem?
Right.
So I guess I was one of the first ones to not talk that way, but it took some practice. But as a kid, it's relatively easy, and I've seen it go in the reverse too. I've had a friend that moved back to Arkansas, and a year later she came back, and you couldn't tell she was not from Arkansas.
Oh, wow.
And I go, "That's strange." She says, "What you talking about?"
Okay.
Here we go.
I'm fixing to go to the store right now. So why are you broken?
Right.
You know what? As long as we're on this subject, one thing I did want to bring up, and one of the things that I'm proud about, with my Facebook page, Steve Stanford Designs, is it's kind of all inclusive, and we're not just sticking just to one subject or one type of car or one type of enthusiast or whatever. We're kind of a wide open tent, and the whole idea is to have fun with this, and to realize that there's so many guys that are so locked into their little niches and that kind of thing. I don't want that. I want to showcase a lot of different variety of artwork and design ideas, or even funny memes and stuff that we put up on occasion, just to keep it light, keep it fun, keep it inclusive.
Well, and that's what I talked with Kat about this too, and we are on agreement with this. Hot rodding is hot rodding. It doesn't matter what the body is or where it came from.
That's right.
If you hot rod it, you hot rod it.
Hot rodding is a philosophy.
It is. And you see a lot, the age group now, they did not grow up with the domestic cars like we did.
That's right.
They grew up with the Japanese and the German cars,
which was usually mom and dad's hand-me-down.
Right. And so what are they working on? What do they remember?
What do they relate to?
That's what they're going back to.
That's right.
We had the same thing back in the 70s when hot rodding started to go away.
Mm-hmm.
People went to muscle cars, they went to vans, they went to pickups.
Right.
Then hot rodding came back for a while. Then customs have come back. And the craze, we were talking off camera about lowriders. Mm-hmm. When I was a kid, they weren't lowriders. They were customs.
That's right. They were cruisers.
That's right. There was no ethnic break. It was, if you were a greaser or a surfer, that was about as close to ethnic as it got.
That's right.
And if you were a greaser, you had a lowered car with custom paint.
Right.
If you were a surfer, it was a raised up, it was a drag car. And it was just...
Well, with the cruisers, I did a piece for the Rodders Journal. I think it was like issue number 5 or something. It was long ago, but the piece was called Metal Flake, Pompadours, and Astro Supremes. And what we were doing, this is now, see, everybody's into all these 60s customs and 70s Metal Flake and vans and all that.
Yeah.
But when I did that piece, this wasn't happening. This wasn't a going thing. So I ended up having to do an illustration to illustrate the points that I was making in the article that I wrote about certain looks that the cars had and the way things were set up. And after that, I noticed it took a little while, but all of a sudden this stuff like sculptured interiors and custom Rivieras and all the stuff that I was trying to illustrate to get my points across. Now people understand, and I'm looking at it now, I'm going, God, where was all this information when I was trying to put this article together? I'm doing this stuff out of my head because this is the stuff that I relate to and stuff that I remembered. It wasn't a faction, like you say, we had the hair boys, as Pat Ganal used to call them. There was a certain look, with the big pompadours, and they're going to the car shows at the sports arena.
Yeah.
There was a certain ethos to all this, but like you say, it was inclusive.
Yeah.
There was all types of guys that was into those types of cars, and then the same paint jobs that was on a custom '63 Riviera. Well, maybe a couple weeks before that painter was painting a drag boat or something with the same type of techniques, the same bright colors and all that. Didn't care what it was going on, but it was all good.
Right, and we were talking about that earlier about Bill Carter, and one of my introductions to him was when he was trying to do production kind of paint jobs.
Sure.
He was doing low-dollar fadeaway paint jobs.
Like for dealers and that kind of thing, too.
Yeah, and then he'd go to the car shows, and for argument's sake, I don't remember the dollar amount, but it was $185 to get your fadeaway paint job.
Right.
And he started getting bread and butter work by doing that.
That's right.
His shop was in North Hollywood. I lived down the street. It was over by Valley College. And as soon as I could afford it, I took my van to him because I wanted him to stripe it.
Absolutely.
And that was the place to go. And I still remember him doing burnouts with his dragster in the parking lot of the college.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Tuning it up.
Right. Yeah, getting it ready to go race with. And, hats off to him. And
see, that's what's so cool about Bill Carter, because he was so multifaceted. Like I said, he was a racer, he's a painter, he's just an all-around good guy. But he was a very hard worker and very talented.
Yes.
And like I say, he painted that he used this technique across a wide variety of cars,
Yeah, and he was doing it. I remember it because it stood out in my mind because that's what I wanted. I was too young to drive when I started going to car shows.
Sure.
But that is what I wanted to achieve. I said, he's the guy. That's what I want. I never did get the fadeaway paint job, but I did get the flames and the pinstriping. But it's something that you can do. It doesn't matter what the body is.
Sure.
And if you get the right painter, and Bill was the guy at the time, he could do a paint job. And he did, at that time, to cut the cost, instead of doing him in lacquer, it was a fadeaway and enamel.
That's right.
And you could get that done in enamel. I don't remember if it was a synthetic enamel, if they even had it back then or not. But it got a lot of guys into custom paint jobs that would not necessarily have them.
And plus, we're also talking, for the most part, the cruiser crowd. I mean, these guys aren't going for sweepstakes, at an ISCA show. They just want something bitching that they used to be to drive up and down Van Nuys Boulevard and show off and pick up girls, the whole deal. Yeah. So, it was on a budget to where they could actually not just dream it, but achieve the dream, and that's what made it so much fun. The realization is, hey, I can actually have something like that. I can work toward that. And a guy like Bill Carter made it come to life.
Yeah, and he'd do the good paint jobs. The expensive was the show quality ones. There was when I was a kid, there was a guy that lived around the corner, and every year Bill would repaint this guy's car because he was showing it at the SCA shows, and
you had to change them up.
You had to change it up every year.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I remember one year it was Candy Red, one year it was Fadeaway Blues, one year it was Greens.
And that's the show car guys.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And I go,
same thing.
But the paint job was beautiful. Why did you change it? I didn't understand the judging. I didn't understand the mentality of the show circuit at the time.
So, because they wanted to pack them into the auditorium. People didn't want to pay to see the same cars year after year, so they had to change them up.
I mean, we were talking a little bit about, there was a thing recently in a newspaper, local newspaper for me. There's a Belmont Shore car show, and they're talking about that it might be the last car show because the guys running the show are getting up in age, and they're not there's nobody there to take it over.
Right.
And so what they're saying is the people coming to the show, there's still lots of people that go to the show, but there's not that many people that are the car attendants. And so the issue is sometimes that the inclusiveness that we started to talk about, that we wanted to talk about a little bit is like who you get to this point where you've got your like as you say, the graybeards.
Oh yeah.
The graybeards don't want to be inclusive of some of the younger guys. The younger guys want to be there, want to be around, but how we end up putting up walls and making it very difficult.
Yeah, and you see that in all facets.
I don't understand that, because youth is the future of hot rodding in the industry. Why wouldn't you want to mentor and include them?
Because they don't understand or care for the type of vehicle. Right. Steve Scott was one of the guys that broke molds with his uncertainty.
Oh, yeah.
And he had the same problem back in the 60s. The hardcore hot rodders of that day did not understand his car. What do you mean you're using a Volvo steering box? That's unheard of.
Right.
You've got wire wheels with disc brakes off something else that's import.
That's right.
Why are you melding these things? And that's still pervasive today. And we're going to take a quick break, guys, and we'll be back in just a few moments, and we'll talk to Steve a little bit more. And we've got Cheryl Hyland on the phone waiting to talk to us about a special event that's going to be happening at Irwindale Speedway for cancer.
Is about to happen to the American automobile. Introducing the totally new Lynx from Lincoln Mercury. Lynx, its hemispherical head engine, advanced transmission, and aerodynamic shape have combined to produce the highest gas mileage label of any front-wheel drive car made in America. Lynx, not just front-wheel drive, but four-wheel independent suspension for smoothness. Lynx, not just advanced computer technology, but a special inner world that's a pleasure to be in. Starting today, the world belongs to an American car. Starting today, the world belongs to Lynx.
Of a rocket Oldsmobile.
You know, there's a new word to describe that Oldsmobile thrill.
It's spelled O-L-D-S-M-O-B-I-L-I-T-Y. O-L-D-S, Oldsmobility, glamorous new. Oldsmobility, powerful, yes. Oldsmobility in Olds 458. Just wait till you see Oldsmobility in action.
Like in the beautiful new Dynamic 88.
There's a new rocket engine under the hood, new power, and greater fuel economy.
Economy that matches the down-to-earth price of an 88. The lowest priced rocket engine car.
There's nothing like the 58 Oldsmobile.
Yes, there's no mobility like
O-L-D-S, Oldsmobility in Olds 458.
Welcome back to Gas, folks, and I'm Hotrod Bob along with Bruce Barker, hanging there with the boards, Anna Marco, and Octave.
I'm so excited about those commercials.
Are you?
Oldsmobility.
I'm excited. Yeah, the Oldsmobile especially.
So
the Lynx, not so much. But
Yes.
I had Sean Morris with us.
Hi.
Yeah, I love his enthusiasm. And then there's Steve Stanford.
Yeah, we're trying to peel Sean off the wall.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, if someone wants some art or wants to commission you to do some art, how do they find you?
Well, you can put a toe in the water on Facebook and find me at SteveStanfordDesigns.com.
All right.
And all the information is there. You know, we got the gallery of all the illustrations I've done and contact info and all that. So.
Now, there's the one I was talking about.
Yeah, the Donuts van.
Yeah, because the van I built that we've been talking about was a 62, and it ended up in about 4 or 5 different magazines. So I'm stuck on that, and I've had a few guys from the old van clubs go, "When you building another one?" I go, "Really? Come on, guys, that was 40 years ago."
Yeah, that van thing's bubbling under the surface.
The vans are
coming back.
The vans are coming back. The vans are, the shag carpeting, the wood interior, all that. There's Hot Rod Harry.
Yeah,
right?
Hot Rod Harry. Yeah, he's got a couple of relics from that era.
He's definitely into his vans. He's got a couple that are they're full. Everything, shag carpeting, orange.
And the prices are going up. I've seen a couple of guys from the old van club I kind of hung around with, the Vandits.
Oh, I remember those guys, yeah.
And there a couple of guys still have their vans.
Oh, goodness.
And they've restored them.
Ooh,
so
how cool
almost back to what they were back in the day. They just, they're older now, so the air conditioning's got to work.
Yeah, right.
Before it was, it's all right. I don't have any clothes on in the back here anyway.
You got to put the wheelchair ramp in.
Right. Yeah, that's it. So, all right.
The wheelchair ramp.
I'm a bad boy.
Oh man, you're.
If you hit them just right with the powered wheelchairs, you do get the fly. Like Evil Knievel.
They got the little. What is it? The rascal on the back. So now they've got to have a tow hitch on the back so they can fit the rascal.
And instead of the logo for the club, it's the handicap thing.
And that's why like all these car shows are going to go away because
it's all included.
That was the thing about that Belmont Shore. They said that like 8 of the members like up and moved to Lake Havasu.
Yeah. Well, because of the arthritis. They had to go there for warmth.
I mean, but they're from Long Beach or from Southern California. I mean, it shouldn't be anyway.
But it's the same thing with LA Roadsters.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that
over the show.
And there's a lot of people that kind of rub them the wrong way, unfortunately. But there was a reason. I mean, John is just trying to make sure that show continues on,
stays alive. And you look at the demographics of the LA Roadsters.
Yes,
these guys are great guys. But I mean, they've been collecting Social Security long before it ever started.
Yeah,
I mean, these guys are older than your cars in some cases.
See, that's why it's so important that young people get involved with the hobby to a larger degree, and continue this great tradition. What's really funny about this? About maybe 30 years ago, the National Street Rod Association used to wail and complain about, well, we need more young people in the hobby, and where are we going to get these young folks? Well, now we've got a whole young contingent that are doing things their own way. You go to some of the major shows, and the Suede Palace and all that.
Exactly.
That stuff's fun to walk through because you got young people that are into this lifestyle, but they're doing it their own way. They're putting their own spin on it.
Right.
And that's what to me is very important about keeping this whole thing alive, because now you've got renewed interest. You've got a different perspective on how this stuff. How to have fun with this whole idea. So they're not doing the same thing that their mom and dad did, and or their grandparents, and that's kind of the point, because now that they've got a different way of looking at things. I hate the term rat rod, but for the moment I'm going to use it because it illustrates this point. Those kids came along and built those kinds of rough rods, or whatever you want to call them, and there's a certain look that evolved out of that. And all of a sudden, it affected the older camp, because they said, well, I don't have to have, a $50,000 set of wheels or this fancy upholstery job or, that kind of thing. Not everybody wants to go for the Riddler. And the older guys are going, hey, this kind of reminds me of when I was a kid, and now I can have the kind of car that I always really wanted to have, and not so much a peer pressure hot rod because his other buddies got this certain type of car. This guy, well, maybe he doesn't want to do that, but he's looking at what these young folks are doing. It's not stopping the young kids.
Nope.
So they're building these really cool traditional cars with a whole different spin, and still with the respect for tradition, but their own way.
And they're not doing bubble wrap cars.
That's right.
They're not going to the store and buying a billet piece to put on the car. They're making them. They're recycling old parts. They are what hot rodding started out to be. You built what you could with what you could find or what you had. I mean, even Tommy Ivo's famous Roadster.
Yeah.
He went out to the desert to find the body.
Yeah. Half a touring body.
Yeah. And these are the things that started hot rodding. Yeah, the goal back then was to put great paint jobs on them, but today they don't need the paint job. I got primer, or I've got suede.
Right.
My wife's car is that way. My wife's got a 46 Ford. It's suede. It's not primer. It's not shiny paint. It's suede.
That's right.
And man, she gets more looks with that. She loves the car, and it's the look. It's fine, and she's. Well,
that kind of look that kind of look is relatable. People from 8 to 80 or whatever income bracket, they can look at something like that and just see a cool car.
That's it.
It's like the hot rod guys always joke about they can drive their cars around, they get the thumbs up, but a guy driving a Lamborghini or something, he's going to get the middle finger, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's still automotive enthusiasm. It just depends on how you want to express it.
It is. All right, we're going to change direction here, and we're going to talk to Cheryl Highland about an event coming up at Irwindale Speedway on the 23rd of September. Cheryl, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Bob?
I am doing great. Can you explain to the people what your show and your event is going to be all about?
Well, we're having a special event, like I said. It's called Paint Your World Purple, and it encompasses all cancers. We're working directly with the local Relay for Life teams and the American Cancer Society. And I'm part of the Robert Rice racing team, and we're going to be sporting purple hoods with tribute ribbons on there for the survivors, people who have lost their fight, and the people who are currently fighting.
Oh, wow.
We're selling tickets for admission for $10, with $5 going directly to the American Cancer Society. We have Black Flag Cancer T-shirts we're selling, and tribute ribbons, like I mentioned. We're also doing a special a raffle where you could drive one of the Robert Rice-built Enduro cars in the October 28th Night of Destruction. All proceeds of the $10 ticket going directly to the American Cancer Society.
Oh, put me down for that.
All
right. That I got to do. Now, you say you're involved with Robert Rice. Tell the people how you're involved, because we got to talk a little bit on track last Saturday.
Yeah, well, actually, I do race for the team, and he is my boyfriend. And I do race actually in all the events. I do the enduro, the skid plate, the figure eight, and the demolition derby, and the trailer races alongside him and the rest of our teammates.
Now, you passed him. You are higher in the point in the scoring one time.
Did you get a picture of that out there?
Not a girl.
That doesn't happen very often.
All right, so you're doing this event. It's going to be the 23rd of September. Now, I'm going to try and get there as early as I can, but I'm doing the Cruising for a Cure in the morning. So if you really want to support cancer, you got two options that day. Or two opportunities. You got Cruising for a Cure at Orange County Fairgrounds in the morning, then hightail your stuff over to Irwindale Speedway. Gates will open at 4 p.m., and they can come in and talk to you there. They can meet and greet with you right on the track at 5:45, because during the autograph session, you're very busy out there with your car.
Yes. Yes, we have our cars all on display, and as I talked to you about, we're also going to be doing a parade before the races, honoring you survivors, you fighters who have, are fighting these incredible different types of cancer. And we've all of the cars at Robert Rice Racing will have purple hoods, and we will each be displaying the tribute ribbons that people have purchased right on the car, on the hoods. And those cars, along with other nice, like you were talking about, your classic cars and some newer cars too, will be actually they're going to be Model A's are going to be leading the parade for us, and we'll be doing that before the races start at 7 p.m. But yes, we'll have an autograph session. We will have shirts for sale if people would like to buy them, but they can go on the IrwindaleSpeedway.com website. They can order them on there using one of the RFL Oxnard codes, and they can save $5. And then $5 of their $10 purchase goes directly to the American Cancer Society.
All right, that's great. Well, we're looking forward to it. I know I'm going to be there. My wife and I are both survivors. We are going to be there with you, and we're going to be parading.
Thank you.
Now, I don't think we're going to paint our hoods purple.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, that's okay. You don't have to do that. The race cars, not the other people either, but all 12 of our figure eight cars that will be racing that night along with the other people. All 12 of our cars will have purple hoods with the white stickers with the names of the people that have purchased the ribbons for the, honoring their loved ones.
All right,
so,
good.
But that we just as a tribute. So.
All right, and if you haven't been out to Irwindale Speedway, this is going to be your last opportunities. The Speedway will be closing down in January, and we've got 2 Night of Destructions remaining for the season. You don't want to miss these. They are a blast, and, I'll tell you what, I had a few of my family members that had never been to one of these show up.
Really?
I got married on the starting line.
That's hardcore.
I remember your wedding. It was beautiful.
And it Night of Destruction. And we're going to do that, but we want you to come out to Irwindale. We want you to be part of this cancer-supporting event on September 23rd.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Okay.
Where's Night of Destruction going? Where's it going? What racetrack?
It's not.
Okay, we're taking it to the street. That's it.
No, Anna. No, Anna.
Not the destruction part.
No. That's,
Which street?
Anna, that's the 405 freeway.
We're going back to Van Nuys Boulevard.
Back to Van Nuys Boulevard.
There you go.
Return to Van Nuys. No. But, Night of Destruction. It will be the last Nights of Destruction at Irwindale. You want to make these. They are great events. Even if you're not a race fan, you will enjoy the skid plate, the figure eights. You'll enjoy this. This is not necessarily for the hardcore NASCAR people. If you're a hardcore NASCAR, you don't understand the fun.
It's so much fun.
Yeah. I mean, skid plate.
What about that one trailer that would not die?
Oh, yeah.
We're just trying to kill it.
Well, we had a race one time, a trailer race, where it was one of the toy haulers, and the gate came down.
Oh, God.
And the next guy behind him drove in. So he went around the track a few laps in the back of his other guy's trailer. Saved gas. What the heck?
I guess, right? Seems kind of sketchy, but
that's it. Yeah, but it was a kick, and we've had guys drive through the trailers, and so forth.
It's some great stuff. Oh, yes, I was gonna say, please have some video. Right?
There's some video. Now, this guy's running. I don't know why he's running. They're still watering down the track.
Right.
It's a parade lap. They're getting ready to start. But that'll give you an idea what a trailer race is. So you've got to have a vehicle towing a trailer.
Oh, good.
Now, he had a trailer.
Right.
Oh, no.
He still has the jet ski.
Right.
Now, what
I love it.
there we go.
The best.
So what is the goal,
is
Cheryl?
the
What
best.
is the goal of trailer racing for those people who've never seen a trailer race?
To blow minds.
Well, the real ultimate goal is to put on a show for the fans. That's who votes for the winner. But it's really to dislodge your competitors.
Look at that. The boat's going down without a
And
car.
hopefully keep yours on, because you do have to have a trailer attached to you, some sort. I had 12 inches one time that just had the hitch and a part of like the A-arm thing. The boat and everything else was gone, but I still got second place because I had enough on there to constitute a trailer.
Okay.
The fans vote for it. So you want to put on a good show. You want to go airborne. You want to hit things, push things. You just want.
Look at the sparks coming off that one.
Right, yeah.
Where do you get your trailers from? Pick Apart?
We do get some from Pick Apart. We also, seriously, I go on Craigslist, and some people are giving them away. A lot of the lots that people store things and they never come get them. They're like, come get these things. They're rusted. They're falling apart.
Perfect.
And,
right.
Yeah, they're great, and they have it makes a lot of debris.
Yes, it does. It takes the track about 2 days to clean it up.
Trailer last race and it got demolished.
Oh, God.
Well, look at this one. He's pulling it, and it's upside down. Well, wait a minute. The body just came off the trailer.
Oh,
Pink
no.
wagon and a pink trailer. That's
Right. Yeah.
demolished.
This is.
This is insane.
Was that you in the pink car?
Yes, it is. Yes.
That was
My
awesome.
cars even have eyelashes on them. So.
Good girl.
Looks like fun.
All right,
fun.
Cheryl, thank you very much. And they go to the Irwindale Speedway or Irwindale Event Center site to find out more information and buy their tickets in advance.
Look at the car in advance.
And or they can come to the gate and buy them the night of the event, but that's not really advisable because we've had sellouts where you can't get in.
Yeah.
I know.
Right.
So buy them
we
online.
turn people away. So, you can also go on, like I said, they have codes to save your $5 and get your other $5 going straight to the Cancer Society. It's RFL Oxnard, Relay for Life Oxnard. That's the code you put in to save your $5, so it's only $10 to get in. $5 goes to the track, $5 goes to the American Cancer Society.
All right, great. Cheryl, thank you very much for calling in. We'll be talking to you again
Love
soon.
the phone call.
All right. Take care, Cheryl.
Thank you very much.
And we'll talk to you after the race, too, so we can get your input as to how well you did.
Okay, well, just look for that orange number 7, which is Roberts. I'll be the pink number 3. I'll try to put on a good show, but
No doubt.
Fun.
We always do. Thanks a lot, Cheryl.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Hope to see you there.
All right, we will. Take care.
Thanks, Bob.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's so much fun.
Night of Destruction is amazing. I had, like I said, I got married there. I had 200 people. About 50 of the 200 knew what this was. The other 150 had never even been to a race, let alone this kind of an event. And they wanted to come back ever since because it just...
How do you describe it to people? You can't.
It's entertainment.
Yeah.
Is what
It's
it is.
so much fun.
And unfortunately...
always sold out.
Yeah, and unfortunately, unless we get someone to pick up the slack or pick up the racetrack itself, then this is all going away after January.
Well, like Sean just said about the Belmont Shore, I mean, that was such a tradition of a hot rod show. And, if we can't get people to carry this kind of thing on, because obviously the public loves it, the city loves it, but it's the car club guys. They're like, we've had enough. We need to pass the torch here.
Yeah, they need, and that's the problem, too. Is we've talked about this, and we kind of touched on it, where some of the older generation guys are just too set in their ways.
Well, there's that.
And NHRA was like that, too. I mean, there was a thing, we don't cross 48th Street.
Oh, yeah.
And basically, it wasn't 1948 and older only. Right. And they finally saw the error of their ways, but it was after Medders with good guys started bringing in 254.
That's right.
Well, then NHRA said, well, we got to change. We got to keep up with him. Although NHRA started out, they had a van division.
They had a street machine division at the same time. I remember that in the early 70s. They had their own event and the whole deal.
Yeah, and then they dropped it for some reason.
Because it wasn't being supported by the crowd. But see, now today's different.
Today's different, but it was the same thing with import drags.
Yeah.
Remember, we had Nopi drags.
That's
we had Good Times drags.
Oh, yeah.
We had all sorts of import drags. NHRA had a special class for them.
Yep.
And they dropped it.
Battle of the Imports.
They weren't getting the participation. They were getting the racers. But if you're not going to put anyone in the stands, you can't pay for the race.
If you want to talk, I mean, that was what happened there. Was basically they're getting the corporate sponsors, and there wasn't any of the money going to the actual people racing.
Yeah,
and so and basically there wasn't enough of a pie to split.
Yeah.
So I mean, it started to get. I mean, and then basically, to be competitive to go out and race. I mean, it's expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's spending a lot of money, and if you can't get the sponsorship, you kind of run into this circle drain thing where there's no money to go out race and.
Well, God forbid if a competitor breaks something. I mean, we're not even talking about how expensive that can get.
Yeah, it's very.
That's why we need to stay with Demolition
No, we're not going to talk to Sanjay.
You're not going to talk to Sanjay?
No, we're not going to talk to Sanjay. We're gonna.
Okay. Sanjay, come on. Sanjay, we're going to get you on.
It says wants to talk to Steve.
I didn't have enough room to type everything.
Right.
Yeah, really.
So then no, I'm gonna cut his mic off.
All right, Sanjay, you can get even when we go live here. Here we go.
Yeah, hey guys, how you doing? It's Sanjay here, the artist from up north.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, I'm not bad, man. Hey, Sean, beard looks good, man. I like it.
Thanks.
Don't tell him that. Don't encourage the bear.
I like it. I like it too.
Hey,
I'm getting some hair going.
You and I were talking earlier. And for the youth that are actually very excited to be in this car community, what is the best way that you would recommend that someone were to get a little bit of exposure? Maybe a builder or an artist, perhaps? It doesn't seem like there's many ways for a lot of the young cats to actually kind of squiggle their way in. So what would your best advice be for someone that wants to make a splash?
I think the easiest way, personally, would probably be just attend the shows.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't necessarily need a car, but you do need to network. And once you've met a number of people that are encouraging and whatnot, then when you finally, if you think your car is good enough or would be well received at any event, Well, even regardless of what type of event you're going to, just go and take your stuff out there so people can see what you can do, and maybe you can get some constructive criticism about what, if you need a little help in a certain area, or if you're insanely talented in another area too, that will be recognized also. But you got to just get out there, and then don't,
You know what? But so we're talking about organized car shows. Mm-hmm. How about unorganized car shows, like the Cars and Coffee that used to be in Irvine? Now that was, or any of that kind of stuff.
You got Fireball show down in the $1 Million Cruise nights or Cruise Day Sunday.
Sure.
But some of those kinds of shows, you just have basically a variety of almost every different type of thing and person there, and most people are really happy to talk about their cars and to talk about and
see something different,
right? Yeah, and just I really like going to the Irvine show because you would have everything from $1 million Ferraris down to just guys in their Miatas or whatever that might be, and hot rods and street rods and everything in between, and just kind of like this. It's so informal, but so much cool stuff.
Well, they have one every.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they have one in Woodland Hills. I think it's every Sunday. Supercar Sunday.
Yes,
and that's just exactly that.
Yeah,
right. It's just an open parking lot,
right.
And just you can go in and park, and if you have a stock car and you're just there, it's great. Yeah. And if you have something that's cool and modified, the last time I was out there, Jay Leno shows up in his car and.
But the point is just don't be shy.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid that somebody's going to put you down or what you're driving and that, because you really don't know until you get there. And so just put your stuff out there and put a smile on and say,
get involved.
Get involved.
You have to get involved.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
It's not hard. And again, like I said earlier, you don't necessarily need a car. Just go and walk around and shake hands and compliment a guy's ride. And let's face it, most of these guys are more than happy to talk about their cars for hours.
Right.
And you'll make a new friend.
Absolutely.
It's not that hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
That reminds me of when I was a little bit younger. When I was first getting into this scene, it was actually a lot of that, and it actually worked out pretty well. There's a lot of friendly faces in the community, and I think a lot of people do not realize that. And there's also a lot of things that kind of go on culturally. Sean could probably attest to this, but when Paul Walker made that first Fast and the Furious, there was a lot of kids that were just taking their parents' cars basically and just trying to modify them, trying to be part of something. And then when he passed away, a lot of those people came out and they were really, showing condolences for Paul Walker because he was kind of that James Dean of this generation,
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Unfortunate. Unfortunate ends the same way, similar ways. So.
All righty. Well, listen, man, I appreciate the call. Appreciate you checking in, man. It's always good to hear from you.
Always here to support you, brother.
All right, I love it.
I guess I'm going to send it to you, too. So.
All right,
no, I'm
thanks,
serious.
Sanjay.
No, I have a gift for him. But okay. No, I'm real. So
you'll get it in the mail. It'll be sent collect. Don't worry.
No, it won't go to Swaziland. Unfortunately, I sent some posters that were supposed to go to Switzerland. To Swaziland. Now this wasn't necessarily my fault, but it is my fault. So so there were a couple of Steve's posters that were going to go to a
never a dull moment of
very enthusiastic fan that I sent some posters to, and unfortunately we realized later that they're somewhere in Africa.
But you have a new following in Africa.
Yeah, really exactly.
Hopefully.
All right, Sanjay, we got to move on. Sorry, but we got more people on the phone with us tonight.
Okay.
Thanks for calling in.
Thanks for having me.
Right,
appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right.
All right, Bobby Schlegel's sitting there quietly for a moment. We got a video for Bobby. He's going to be redebuting, I guess you could say, his car after a 2-year hiatus at a special event coming up. Right, Bobby?
Ooh. Yeah, how you doing, gang? Everything?
Hi, Bobby.
Hello.
Hey, love. How's everything?
Hi.
What's the show tonight? I'm learning a lot.
Ooh, how cool!
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Love that. That's Bobby's Dragster. It's all restored back to the way it was.
I love the name. Hell's a poppin'.
Yep. Yeah. And that is the name that was on the car back when it was originally built, wasn't it, Bob?
Yeah, that's exactly the way it was in '61 when Ron Abbott built it, and then our home track Dover drag strip. That was one of the main cars there, and it multi-top eliminator winner and stuff up at Dover, Lebanon Valley, and Connecticut Dragway.
Listen to that thing cackle.
Yeah. Now look at the shield over the rear end.
Oh, I was gonna. How do you like having that diff right between your legs because I've looked at a few of these things and I've decided that
but it's like with the Harley Davidson guy you say about put something exciting between your legs.
Yeah, but I mean that's pretty. Differentials can come apart.
But
for
decades, that's how the cars ran until 1970.
Back in '70, I was racing a chassis research with a flathead and stuff, and when I saw this was for sale, and as soon as I pulled them in the driveway, I knew I was hooked, and I was going to restore it to the way it was.
Now that's got an old Ford V8 rear end in it.
Yep, it's got the Ford rear in it, and it's got the Ford tranny in it also, the top shift Ford tranny out of a Ford truck.
Top shift, you still
and that one's not for sale.
Points are plenty for the white wall slicks.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the white walls and that, everything looks good.
Did you get response on Alley Oop?
I got a couple phone calls, but it's how you want to say communication tire kickers,
I love it. Only real men drive dragsters, Bobby. Maybe you'll find one for that car.
I haven't had Elsa popping out in 2 years because I was pushing alley-oop, showing that and everything, and everybody was saying we have our 9th annual Dover Drag Strip show this weekend coming up, and I sponsored the Legends section, and everybody's saying, oh, you got to bring Elsa Poppin' back up, we miss it, and I get more history with it, and planning for Sunday, Ron Abbott, he passed away this past spring. His son Scott Abbott is going to come, and I'm going to cackle the car with him in it.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, great.
I like the double hoop roll bar the thing has.
And is that alley-oop in the background here that we're
that's
seeing?
alley-oop in the background next to the other trailer, yep.
Yeah, you got to remember, Steve. This is a Dragmaster chassis.
I was gonna, that's one reason I was asking.
And that is the way the hoops were back then.
That's right.
And Bruce has got Bobby's shirt on right now.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
There we go.
The story with this chassis, when I restored this one, I was talking. Hey, there's my man.
You got to represent.
Dode Martin and Jimmy Nelson, when I was relating to them when I was restoring this, from the factory that they... All right.
They're flashing their boobs over here.
And then I got the picture of that Dode sent me. He says, this is what your chassis is going to look like. And the picture he sent me was the original Dragmaster chassis, and this one was built right after the Dragmaster chassis.
Oh, wow. Great.
And then this one had to come to New York, and that's why once they finished the first one for Dean Moon, so he can get going, and this one came to New York through the original Dragmaster shop. Both Dode and Jimmy can only remember doing about 12 of them, but they offered the twin hoop conversion kit to make it a twin hoop car, and the reason for the twin hoops to come out originally was that was Mickey Thompson's idea. There wasn't enough roll bar over his helmet, so they extended the front bar out, and then that's how the twin hoop became famous.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, well, considering how short he was, that's strange. But I mean, I remember the first time I met him. I'd only seen him in photographs. I thought, Mickey Thompson, that's a big name in racing.
Absolutely.
And then I walk up to him and I got to look down.
Wow.
Okay, yeah, I'm not that tall, but he wasn't that either. I mean, that's probably one of the advantages he had when he was younger. He weighed less than everybody else because he was that much smaller, compact size. So anyway.
And then, our highlight this weekend is we got one of the legends that used to live down in Scarsdale, New York, Bobby Lagana Sr. His two boys, Dom and Bobby, are assistant crew chiefs for Steve Torrance's Top Fuel car, and they have their own Top Fuel car. Their father's Chevrolet, which was a 65 Falcon with the 427 injected motor in it, that was restored in Michigan. That's coming back east again for the show. Then the father's funny car, the Challenger funny car, the American Challenger, that's out in Jersey. That just got the second paint scheme, and that's coming back up. And it's possibly going to be Lagana, Bobby Sr.'s conversion funny car when they were doing the Camaros and starting to change the wheelbase and stuff. And so we might have three of Bobby Lagana's original cars there also in the original Dover section.
Not to get too heavyweight about this sort of thing, but I got to tell you, I mean, we're talking about preserving American history. And this is the kind of stuff that made this country what it is and how great it really is. Yeah. I mean, and these people, I mean, to me, it's no different than, say, if they're preserving old houses or that. I mean, this is a lot more fun, for us. No, absolutely. But I mean, again, it's preserving a great piece of Americana, and they're loud and they're fast and they're fun, and that. again, that's what makes America great.
That's it. All right. Hey, Bobby, thanks for calling in. We got your stuff
All right,
on there.
I appreciate it.
And we got to get going. We're running out of time, unfortunately.
Oh, my goodness.
Once we get done with the weekend, I'll send some pictures and some videos out to you from our Dover show this weekend coming up.
That'd be great. Nice. And then call in for the next show in 2 weeks, and we'll talk about that event.
Cool cars.
Cool. Thanks, gang. I appreciate it.
All right, Bobby. Take care now.
Bye.
All right, Bobby Schlegel out of New York calling in. I mean, we got an international group calling in today.
No kidding.
We're all over the place. All right, Anna.
Yes.
You got something coming up, too.
Yes, talking about the youth, we've got the pedal car drags.
The youths? We're talking about youths?
The youths.
The youths.
Yeah, we're not talking about an Australian pickup truck.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Right. We're talking about the youths. Yeah. That's a New York accent.
We're going to get them involved young. We're going for the 5-year-olds, man.
5-year-olds.
Oh, yeah.
So the pedal car drags
That's illegal
are going
in some places.
Well, not in hot rodding.
Not in hot rodding.
Anything
You got to grab them young.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we are actually at Drag Fest in April 13th through 15th at Famoso, Bakersfield. We are going to do the pedal car drags. They're going to let us run the cars in front of the grandstands down the return road with the kids.
Yeah, but if you go the whole quarter mile, that's child abuse.
No, it's about 50.
How old do they have to be?
However, they can bring their scooters and their wagons, whatever, as long as it's not motorized.
Oh, wow.
So all the kids will participate, and we're building the pedal cars here, and we put the kids in. They all get trophies, and there's crayons and coloring and posters.
I've got my son's original pedal car. I can restore it for him.
I have a 4-year-old, 3-year-old, and a 18.
We're going to do a parade too. We're going to do a pedal car parade in the Grove, and we're going to do a little car show, and we're going to do a mini version of drag racing and hot rodding just for the kids.
That'd be great.
So, and car shows. That was.
Well, that is pretty great.
Flyer.
I like the flyer. That's.
We can get more high tech than that.
Show the real flyer, Bruce. No, that's the crazy.
That's the Famoso mod. That's the guy putting it on. Yeah, that's Randy and Stormy.
Yes, and you know what? Randy said he's doing a circus with a drag race attached. So we're going to have a carnival for the kids.
Well, that's just like the pit area around his pit.
Yeah, well,
it's a circus with a drag race attached.
But show the flyer because that actually came out better.
It's like that expression.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Now we're a little more formal.
So Squindo did the artwork, and that's my nephew and my niece, and they actually fight over the cars.
And they look just like that. That's the strange part.
Really like that. And it's going to be fun. And you know why I started it? Because I would go to all these car shows, and these poor kids were dragged around. They had nothing to do.
Yeah, it's so true.
You know.
So we put up a booth, and the moms were like, "Thank you. We need a place to sit."
Was it that they're saying about take a kid to a car show? This is even better. This ramps it up.
But you know what?
It gets them involved with
it teaches them about preserving vintage vehicles. They have so much fun. They want to come back. It gets them involved. So, we're going to have fun. So bring your kids. Yeah. Bring the kids. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. All right. Hey, Steve, thank you very much for being here. Sean, we're going to talk to you again about some of the stuff you do.
He's got a pretty deep history there.
Yeah, he does. He's real deep. And Kat told me. But that's another story.
What are you talking
about?
Anna?
Stop that.
I know. I try not to.
I could do a whole show on the differential between the legs thing, but I won't say anything.
That's unusual, too. All right, Anna Octane, our co-host.
Right.
And the wonderful artwork from Steve Stanford. We appreciate you coming in and everyone for watching and calling in. Bruce Barker working the boards. And I think we about run out of time.
Man, it's so true.
But it was fun.
I think we ran long.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, all right. Good to see everybody. And here's what's going to happen next. As you know, the encore presentation of this very show. Thanks for joining us again tonight for the Great American Auto Scene. Good night, everybody.